A Science of Change, podcasting by Gilmore Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. Greetings, this is Gil Crosby, and it's a pleasure to be with you again, dear listeners. And today I have a very special guest, Dr. Nancy Zentis, the founder of the International OD or IOD group. And so, Nancy, you've had me on there several times, which I appreciate as a speaker, and I just look forward to chatting with you. I guess just to begin with, if you just want to say a little bit of words of introduction,
Okay.
and then I'm curious about like how you got started in OD.
All right. And I was thinking you were going to ask me that. Thanks, Gil. I'm Dr. Nancy Zentis, and I'm the founder of, because I'm an innovative person, I'm the founder of the Institute of Organization Development. The reason that I created this business 23 years ago is because I also started the South Florida Organization Development Network. And I reached out to all the people in the Tri-County area over on the east side of Florida to join this group. And I thought, well, that would be a really great way to find out, to collaborate and to meet people, and also to work together on promoting the field of organization development. So I moved about 12 years ago now to the other side of Florida, and I decided that I could no longer lead that group. So I decided to create the global IOD network, and it's also a professional development network. And so Gil has kindly provided many presentations for us, Gil and his brother Chris, and we've become pretty close friends. And his father, Robert Crosby, who ironically, I knew his niece when I worked at a community college in Michigan about 40 years ago, more than 40.
Really?
I hate to say that. Yeah, Ruth Grass. Her
Okay.
father, her father, Melvin Moody, was the minister at the Methodist Church in Ohio, and I guess your dad was the music director.
Right. And Melvin also ran a church camp that
Yes.
Dad worked at.
And they
Yes,
were early pioneers in the field of OD because they did it using a collaborative T group approach.
that's true.
So that was, so I just, Ruth and I never, she always talked about her dad, but I never knew she knew Robert Crosby. And then one day I was visiting her, and and she mentioned that she said she called your dad Bing because he was a singer. And so I connected with you guys, and just, and we met at the OD conference that was out in Portland, Oregon, quite a
Okay,
few.
Dad and Chris were there. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. So anyway, long story, there's a lot of connections. I offer OD certification programs, actually 3 OD certification programs through Institute of OD, because because they asked me, Nancy, we don't have a formal background in organization development, so we're wondering what is it. They didn't really know. And so I was at the time 20, over 23 years ago, I was working on my PhD, and I decided, and I was the program, sorry to stumble, but the program was organization development and leadership. So I was able to take my specialization curriculum and use it. So I did that to research everything you wanted to know about organization development, and created three certification programs. So we've been offering that for 23 years. In addition, we also have what we call our specialty programs, because really I was a specialist coming into it in several areas. One, leadership development, 360 feedback, talent management, which really I started off in HR, and
Right.
then executive coaching because I did a lot of coaching with the 360. And my dissertation topic was leadership development and the impact of leadership development and 360 feedback. So that's really how I got to where I am today. But previous, to answer your question, where did I start? In the 80s, I worked for a really wonderful company, Uniroyal Tire Manufacturing. And I worked at the divisional level, and they were pretty innovative. So we had succession planning, performance management, we had career ladders, we had quality circles. So I was able to start at the, at kind of the very beginning and be trained in all of these programs, even though I was in compensation. But I want to, and I didn't really realize till recently, not recently, but that my role in compensation also tied to organization development. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But so we created a senior leadership development program, and I was on the ground floor of that at Uniroyal, and it was a 2-year program. And we started what was known as Uniroyal University. So without really knowing about OD, we were already being influenced by many of the consultants that came out of the University of Michigan, which I didn't know. Kurt Lewin, I kind of followed Kurt Lewin, but 20 years later, more than, yeah, 20 years later, because after he first went to MIT to influence the professors there, the value of organization development and using a systems approach to consulting. He then went to University of Michigan because he had an opportunity there, and that's where he influenced, and it's still there today, many people who are leading research and professors. And those folks worked for the automotive industry, which I worked for, and also
Sure.
the universities I went to, um, Oakland University and Central Michigan University. So we had like a parallel path. He was earlier than I was, and the pioneers were, but I was being influenced because of the companies I worked for. So it was really an exciting time. We had succession planning. I introduced career development. Then we also had to comply with General Motors. So we were trained in implementing quality circles in all the plants. And I worked as a consultant to go out to the plants and teach them how to lead quality circle teams. And then I also led my own. So I was so amazing. And I did not know that Edward Deming was a pioneer, which now they refer to him as a pioneer in the field of organization development because his Plan, Do, Check, Act, or Plan, Do, what did he change it to now? Plan, Do, Study Act is tied to the action research model.
He was influenced by Lewin,
He was. Yeah.
certainly.
He
Well,
definitely, yeah, it was really
let me just
amazing.
try to catch up here. That we you covered a lot of ground, and so I just for one, so I've always gotten confused about IOD and GIOD. And
Right.
so it sounds like you started IOD on the
Sure.
east coast of Florida. And then when you moved to the other side, you named it or relaunched or launched GIOD. And are they basically the same
Well,
organization now?
IOD is our consulting arm it's a
Okay.
corporate.
Okay.
That's where we conduct our certification programs, and we offer consulting services and team solutions.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
EIODN is a membership organization sponsored by IOD, and there we provide people with monthly events, blog articles, member connect, OD tools, a lot of different opportunities for them to further be influenced and learn about the field of OD, because I want our field to continue on really as a career, and that's the legacy that I want to leave. So
Sure.
we
We
fund
share that.
we fund GIODN. IOD, the corporation, funds GIODN, and because I love to connect with my colleagues and continue to present their expertise to all the people that have been through our program, and other people that find us on the internet are invited to attend the GIODN events.
Cool.
So
Cool.
I'm
And and certainly they can contact you directly after this, or just Google GIODN and they'll find it easy. Or if they want to know more, they can contact me and I'll
yeah,
send them to you.
Institute of Organization Development. We have a YouTube channel, either Institute of Organization Development. Our website's HTTPS, Institute of Organization Development, or GIODN.org has its own website.
Cool.
So we're
So just backing up a little bit. Now I'm not sure if Lewin was ever at the University of Michigan. I know for a fact that Lippitt uh, took Lewin's institute that was at MIT and moved to the University of Michigan. And so Ron Lippitt was there for really the remainder of his professional career and his life. Dad was there many times being tutored by Mr. Lippitt. So Lewin's presence was certainly there.
definitely
And, uh, and so there you were then doing HR, and yet they were integrating various techniques into the organization you were in. Uh, and so somewhere along the line, like a light bulb went on, and you said, "I want to further my, or I'm doing OD now."
right.
When was that?
A good question. So I worked. Unfortunately, Uniroyal Tire went through a leverage buyout,
Mhm.
Carl Icahn. And so I decided to move to Florida. But luckily, I moved to Fort Lauderdale, and there were a lot of amazing companies here in the 80s. And so I went to ATD, it's called Association of Training and Development in Miami. We would have 100 people show up for every meeting. Mary Lippitt, that is Gordon Lippitt's daughter, was the president, and that's when I met her.
She's still around.
She is. She lives near me in Sarasota. I talk
Okay, nice.
to her frequently. Yeah, she's amazing. And so through Mary, I met all of these different people who worked at really great companies. One of the companies that I really admired was Florida Power and Light. Now, Florida Power and Light went for 7 years. They were going through getting certified to get the Deming Award. So my dream job was to work at Florida Power and Light.
When
And
was this?
I did work at several other companies. I worked for the Sheridan Corporation, which was amazing. And again, like people didn't really know that they were practicing OD, but the Sheridan Corporation had a systems approach to managing their business. So
Okay.
I learned systems design by working through the Sheridan, and I was the director of training, but I had to have I had to do strategic planning. I had to have a vision, goals, roles. I rolled that out for the whole facility. I would I would manage the deliverables from all the different departments that related to training. I had to report that out on a monthly basis. So I was learning OD from a systems approach from working with the Sheridan Corporation.
Okay. Hey, just the Florida Power and Light.
I want to tell you about that. Yeah, that was I moved down. I learned met a lot of people at ATD, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to work there. If there's any opportunities, let me know." And so, an opportunity came along, and my first role in OD, I worked for Florida Power and Light.
When was this?
That was like 1988.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Because later, a whole bunch of people from Pico Nuclear were at Florida Power and Light, but that was more in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Uh, they had
Yeah.
all been through T group training with my father and I.
Mhm.
So they continued, but that was probably after your time there, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a really amazing experience as well because they, the way that what they did though, how I learned about them was that they would do this. They had to share their knowledge, part of OD, right? They had to share their learnings with the community. So they would invite companies to come to Florida for, I forgot the name of that they called it, but it was like a community outreach. So one of my boss from Uniroyal went to Florida with another couple other people, up, vice presidents of the company, and they attended it and they were really, really impressed because we had to introduce quality management in Uniroyal in order to maintain our original equipment status with General Motors. So it was really a big deal. So they were out there sharing their knowledge on quality, which a lot of companies didn't know about across the United States. GE went there, Motorola went there, all the big companies, and then they quickly adopted the quality management to process team development that that
Similar
Florida,
to Deming,
Florida Power and Light advocated.
right?
So I worked at Florida Power and Light for a couple of years, and my role was to create a leadership development program. So I did the assessment. I went out. I created a study, and I also I did training as well. I did a lot of my background is training and facilitation, which I learned from quality circles. I learned to
Okay.
be a facilitator. I learned how to lead teams. I learned just so many ancillary benefits. And if you look at that, there's a chart that we have called the history of OD. So many of the core concepts of OD were being practiced, from the late 40s to the early, I mean, even today, throughout its history. After Florida Power and Light, I went to Pratt and Whitney, where they had 9,000 engineers in the middle of the Everglades, but not yeah, and they created the booster rockets for the space industry and jet engines. And
Nice.
I worked in an OD department with 24 people.
Wow, big group.
It was amazing, amazing. What
Yeah, yeah.
happened? Yeah, in Florida, a lot of companies started downsizing because it was so hot and we had hurricanes. So a lot of the executives didn't. They thought the idea of living in Florida would be excellent, but then they realized that it was really a big risk to the companies, the facilities. So they I went through a lot of downsizing, unfortunately. But Florida Power and Light was really amazing because there what I did was they actually had decided that they were going to manufacture jet parts after a while because the jet engine business was declining. And we did a Kaizen blitz and I did a total org redesign of all the hourly jobs.
Okay. That sounds like
A very major undertaking with.
yeah, especially if there was downsizing involved too. It could be
Well,
pretty.
yeah, they were. So I worked with I facilitated the sessions. I created the process, and I facilitated the sessions, and trained them on how to analyze their jobs and redesign the jobs. And then we had the union, we had the managers, and we had the employees, the hourly people, a group of people in every session, but only the hourly folks, the subject matter experts, had the right of the final say. But that was really that took a couple years, and I did that for so many companies. It became kind of my bread and butter. It's sort of like what you do, Gil, the T group thing. The job analysis and the job profile became my bread and butter, and people were knocking on my door asking me to help them so that we could use the job profile for so many things. It was very leadership development, job redesign, training needs assessment, a lot of different. different things it could be used for.
Okay. Well, look, I want to back up slightly, back to quality circles.
Okay.
Uh, how did the ideas come that came out of the circles? The circles were probably cross-functional groups of employees.
Or they could be in a functional area. They could be within, one of the, say, like the first, uh, first, it could be one group of people in the first stage of tire build because they've
Okay.
never been in a tire plant. So
And
the
when they generated ideas, how did the ideas get turned into actually get implemented?
okay,
Was
so
there a way to track that or to support it?
well, what we had was the buy-in from the HR, the HR manager and the general manager of the plant. So when we went in, we actually trained the leaders on how to implement a quality circle. So we got their buy-in and their support.
Uh-huh. And,
And
and
CEO of the company said that we had to reduce our scrap and waste significantly. They had a like a 40% scrap rate where they were every
okay.
day the tires weren't meeting quality. So they what they did, it's really terrible. I even hate to say it. They had to go out and burn them, the tires that were scrap. They didn't even recycle them.
Okay.
So we had the buy-in, and then we trained the teams. And uh, I didn't train the teams in the plant. It was the HR manager and the leaders of the plant that did it. I
Okay.
didn't train the trainer, but I was really proud of them, and I monitored their outcomes. So what they did, I'll just give you an example. This one team said, "Well, every time this piece of equipment, we pull the tread off of the Queen Mary, it slides into the wall and it puts a hole in the cement wall of the building, and as a result, it's weakening the structure." So they got together, and these people lived in Oklahoma, Ardmore, Oklahoma, and they were, farmers, cattle ranchers, and they would drive to work with their trucks, and they had their farms, but they worked 8 hours a day at Uniroyal.
Uh-huh.
And we said, look at, they did the Pareto analysis. They identified the problem. They identified the root cause, using uh, root cause analysis and fishbone diagram. And then they said, okay, well, the cause of what's happening is because of this equipment not being able to just rolling back. They didn't put the locks on the wheels, and this was happening every day, and as a result now the building was being compromised. So they did a solution analysis. They came up with some solutions. They decided how they could prevent that piece of equipment, it's like a rack, from bumping into the wall. And then they said, okay, but now we have to repair the wall and we don't really have a budget for it. And the guys on the team, the people on the team, they go, not a problem. This is what they came up with a solution for that and volunteered their time to put pipe around the whole inside perimeter of the plant and to patch the wall and they did it for under $10,000. And the CEO of Unirel was so impressed. He flew them to Connecticut and had a big celebration, and they presented their whole project to all the leaders of all the divisions. So
Nice.
that's how it was cemented into the organization, and we saw a drastic improvement in less than a year in
And scrap race.
in all the plants. Everybody, they waste, scrap, error, you
Cool,
name
cool,
it.
cool.
Yeah,
Cool, cool. That's what I was interested in. Thank you. The
you're
the
welcome.
actual
Yeah.
the outcomes that come from engaging the employees in a
Oh
different
my,
way.
so amazing. Yeah, and we were so
Okay.
proud.
Nice, nice, nice. Now, when you do these job redesigns, does it always come with layoffs like you were talking about, or is it sometimes that people are just figuring out? more clarity about what their roles really should be in order to make the system function better?
Well, just think about it right now, how useful this would be and what's going on today. So what happened is they decided to save their jobs because they were in the union. They Not they, but the leaders of the facility that was in Palm Beach County,
Uh-huh.
they said, We'll get into the jet part." And so they changed the way that they were doing business. It was a kind of a linear manufacturing facility for jet engines. They still did some of that, but then they said, okay, well, we can take some of this equipment, put it into a smaller space, redesign it. So they used a Kaizen Blitz to do that, which also involves, that comes from Deming as well, which also involves people who were subject matter experts in these different machines to say how you would set up the machine and how you would be able to work together. Like there's it starts off with sheet metal, then you got to cut it, then you got to and then you've got, I mean, all these different things. I just remember, it's been a long time, but I
Yeah,
loved it.
no worries, no worries. You're really
I'm going off on a
enough
tangent.
of the details.
So they did that, and then so now their job requirements change. So the job profile process is really org design. It's like redesigning their job and defining what that looks like based on their current responsibilities, their tasks, and the machinery that they use, and also so I could explain it in more detail maybe another time, but we would give them the parameters, like, okay, you're allowed to have a minimum of 6, a maximum of 12 job responsibilities. So let's just talk about what those are. What are your over We would define that, and then they would brainstorm, and we would map it out on sticky notes on a wall, and then it's card sorting. So it's facilitation. It's all
Yeah,
about,
yeah, and in this case, it was because they were taking on a new product.
they were creating a new process.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. That
Yeah.
helps me understand. Cool, cool.
And
Gee,
it's all related to OD because
that's
you know,
right.
it's because you're involving people. You've got the buy-in of the leaders, you've got the union buy-in, you've established this criteria, you've taught them how to brainstorm, how to dialogue, how to collaborate, and they're working together. And I want to say that just a couple years ago, someone found my number and called me to say, did I still have the job profile for their group? That's how impactful it is.
Cool, cool. And so now I'm looking at your IOD action research model, and this helps me put this into perspective. Like when you say data collection and so
Right.
on, so that's you did that with the quality circles. They did their own analysis and then they came up with their own action plan.
I knew I knew plan, do, check, act, the Deming model, before I knew the action research model.
Uh huh.
And actually, what we've done, so the action research model came out of survey research. So Lewin first would consult, they would go in and do data analysis, borrowing from the field of behavioral science and psychology. So they would go in and they would they would, do the
With
entry and the
with the
contract.
workers.
Now, and with the leaders also. And they would identify the need, and then they would go out, they would establish a set of questions, go out and gather data from the people in the field, in the organization, come back and present that to the leadership team. And then, so first Kurt Lewin did that, in my mind anyway. And
Yeah,
then,
I think that's Lippert more than Lewin still. There's
okay,
a
that was
yeah.
kind of a model though, but
Uh huh. Uh huh.
what they didn't do in the early 40s, they would actually do the implementation themselves or just leave the implementation to the leadership team. And they found out they didn't really know how to do it. So then they went back and through, the last, like, from, let's say, the late 40s to the early 90s, they started adding to the action research model, where they would facilitate creating an action plan, And then they talked about implementing the change, but they really didn't have it flushed out. But I've added to the last three phases of the model, borrowing from Deming, from the Association of Facilitators, and other programs that we've been a part of. I've added and made it more, specific and step by step for people that they could easily implement this once they learn it. And they can add their own things to it as well, but as long as you use a systems approach and you use the criteria that Lewin set out on how you work with the organization, you can add your own steps to it or your own tools to it.
Sure. Couple things here. One is I think Lippitt's plan change, which Bush and Marshak write a bunch about, they call it diagnostic OD,
Mhm.
is more like what you've described, where recommendations are given to management and they don't necessarily know what to do with it
Right.
as a result. Lewin actually, in his only industrial work, Harwood Manufacturing, he had the workers come up with, do their own analysis of what's in the way of the work, come up with their own solutions and implement them in their work teams.
Right.
So that was way back in the earliest days before it was called OD, and so was very much immediate action. The research was to see whether or not what they did worked. Like did it hit the scrap reduction like you
Right.
talked about? So I just gotta say the actual Lewin stuff early on, I'm gonna describe as the workers doing hands-on, uh, coming up with their own solutions.
Mhm.
Uh,
He loved that to involve people.
and
And
then it got more complicated later in some of the writing, by Lippitt, and that influenced a lot of OD people to do a longer process with surveys, which nothing wrong with surveys, but data collection, and then giving reports to management with recommendations. And I agree with you, that generally doesn't work. The I mean, the implementation needs to be by the people who, like your workers there in the tire place.
right.
Uh, you know, if they're not involved in implementation, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So
When I get to the implementation phase, I involve the stakeholders, the subject matter experts, the other people in the organization. And so the leaders don't really, they want to know what you're
sure,
doing and they want to approve it,
they
but
have to.
they don't have the time to be in, to actually go to all the meetings to create the implementation phase. So
No,
we work with many different groups to make it happen.
sure. Okay, cool. So,
We
uh,
agree. It's wonderful. It's my life passion. I love it so much. And I just like to inspire people that and to know that they have a say and that they are valued in their job. And that's what I get out of it. And the bottom line is if they can make an impact and achieve goals for the organization to keep their jobs. Because
sure.
I'm a loyal person, and what I really was very hard, but it was having to be laid off and not have that job after I felt so loyal to the company and the business and the culture and the values.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been laid off 3 times, and
I
it's
know.
always painful.
Painful, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked at Motorola too in OD. So in that was really great, really good experience. I was a contractor, consultant at Pratt and Whitney Motorola in Florida Power and Light. But at Motorola, I was actually an OD consultant to the technical training department. So they had an OD department, and I was part of that department, but my role was to support the technical training, which was
Okay.
amazing. And that was in the day when we were manufacturing a mile worth of pagers a day.
Hmm.
So they were they were producing that many pages. That was like in a semi robotic factory. So the
Sure.
and that was amazing, and a lot of teamwork, a lot of problem solving, a lot of conflict management, a lot of coming up with some innovative solutions. So that was a really great experience also.
Cool. Well, now here you are. You're young still.
Yeah.
Are you still doing, like, do you actually have OD customers at this point, or are you
Ooh.
primarily just living your life there on the south coast of Florida and working through the GIOD and the IOD?
No, I have a team of 13 people, and
Uh-huh.
we we provide certification programs, and we have 7 different programs, and those we offer those every month. And then we also are doing a lot of custom team solutions. So we're working with a group over in Switzerland, and we've customized an OD program to meet their needs. And we're doing that online, and also it's going to be in person in early September. And then we have some other people. Usually, our past participants call us and ask if we can help them. And so just things like we have a company that's growing, and they're adding plants, they're adding people, and they wanted us to help. They wanted us to help them with some talent management
Mhm.
solutions for their team. So yeah, it's all good. It's all lovely. And I really manage the team. Since I'm the CEO, we have 2 divisions now. We have the OD consulting team with the team solutions and consulting, and we have our certification program, 2 divisions. And then so I'll coach my team members on how, really how to work with the client. And I write a lot of the blogs. I rewrite the training programs. I'm busy every day. I'd say I work 8 to 10 hours a day because I love it so much. I can't let go.
Well, it's good to have something that you have passion for.
Definitely, definitely. So I think
Will
it
you
keeps me going, don't you?
uh, you seem to be going like the Energizer Bunny.
I think so.
Will you be going to Switzerland?
I'm not going to go to Switzerland. Well, as of today, I'm not going to be going, but yeah,
Okay.
but I might be going to Africa. I also sponsor other countries with their OD, working with OD, and
Uh-huh.
have a I have a big presence in Ghana, in Africa, and I have in India, Jamaica, and so we also work with people in other parts of the world to help them promote the field of organization development and provide training.
Cool. I was just in Jamaica speaking at a conference,
You are
running
right.
running a tea group workshop. Ha-
Excellent.
Have you ever been in a tea group?
Only briefly I have been, and I would love it.
But it was briefly during your PhD program or something,
Yeah,
or
during college. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We experienced it.
Cool, cool, cool. It used to be like a requirement, but that was never. It was sort of. I don't know if I'd say it was an expectation or a requirement, or it was just simply in the early days of OD, everybody that was in the field went through T groups at NTL with Lippert and Bradford and Benet and their whole circle.
It would have been
Uh,
great. I wish I would have loved that, but I have a degree in psychology and sociology, and so a lot of many semesters were spent in doing, consulting in teams, and
huh.
we're using a lot of because they borrowed a lot of the
Sure.
tools from the fields of psychology and sociology, and doing group work and working with psychological behavioral problems. But so I did get a little of it through that. That's where I was exposed to it.
Sure. Sure.
I was gonna,
Well, Nancy.
yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna say something else that was pretty important too. But
okay.
Maybe I lost my train of thought. Um, so yeah, so what? Oh, I was going to mention also about Mouton and Blake. They were worked in Detroit in the early '80s, helping a
Uh-huh.
lot of automotive companies because um, they were going. We were getting a lot of competition from Japan, and they
Sure.
had to revamp the way that they did business.
Yeah.
And I think that Mouton and Blake were responsible for coining the term organization development. They go, we should just call this organization development. The company I work for, and I can't find the case study, they worked with a consulting group, and it could have been Human Synergistics or Mouton and Blake. I know Mouton and Blake worked with Co America Bank in Detroit. So I'm from Detroit. And
I was
they
born there.
were you? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Oh my goodness.
I spent the first 6 months of my life there.
Oh my goodness. That's a small world.
Yeah.
I spent for it. But anyway, they did a leadership development intervention with the leaders of our organization because we had lost our market share, and they did this, they did the assessment, they collected the data, and they went, well, the reason is that your culture and your leadership needs to change. And so they got them all together, and they showed them the data, and they helped them create what was called a house and order policy, 12 steps for leaders to improve their leadership throughout the organization. And I have to tell you, that was the most amazing thing that ever happened. People were so loyal and loved the leader. The leaders were amazing. We had mentoring programs. You could go and talk to any leader. You had, they just had they changed their values, and it saved the company.
Cool.
So I was influenced by that as well. So I do a lot of work in leadership development and culture change and value clarification and things like that. I think that's really
Well, those
important.
guys also, of course, created grid work basically, and
Yeah.
uh, we use one of their grids. It's been transformed into a conflict management grid by Dr. Jay Hall and sold by Telemetrics, but it's the same grid that they came up with, where you have task and relationship, and you're either able to combine the two, or you're more focused on task or on relationship or on neither. And uh, of course, they were suggesting that leaders should be able to combine both as much as possible,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Leaders loved that 9.9 grid. They would they loved it. But anyway, I was just going to say, though, I know you're going to end this shortly, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. And it's a little hard sometimes talking about yourself, but I just wanted to mention too that we do have a career path in OD. We have our own competency model that we developed, and we have three programs. We have ODPC, which teaches you the process consulting facilitation tools, which is really valuable and just took me many years to develop that. We have our ODCP, which teaches people how to apply immediately the action research model and all the steps and all the tools and guidelines that you need. And also, we have our OD certified consultant program, because a lot of people, once that they've mastered the action research model and worked with leaders on helping them with change interventions, now they want to move more into a consultant role. So we actually provide advanced concepts in OD and help to build your consulting skills. So I really I mean, those programs are amazing. We have a lot of success rate, and people we call us and tell us how we help them with their career and how it benefited them. So they're tried and true and proven, and based on the work of Kurt Lewin and the Lippitt's and Robert Crosby and all the pioneers. So if you wanted to, if anybody's interested, please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to talk to you more about the career path in organization development.
Excellent. And let's see. I just Googled GIOD. Does it just come right up? It looks like there's a bunch of other GIODs in the world.
Well, just do Institute OD. Institute
Institute OD.
OD.
Okay. So you hear all that, listeners? Institute OD. And if you want to get a hold of Nancy, you can also just get a hold of me and I'll put you in touch.
Right. Or yeah, I've got. If you can email me.
Okay, that came right up though. Institute OD leads
Yeah,
right to you as the first hit. So,
and you can.
uh,
I don't. Yeah, and we'd love to talk to you too about what your work and what you're doing. And we are, we see an opportunity for consulting work, so we should, if you're interested in that, you might want to reach out to us as well because we're looking to add some more consultants.
okay, plus if you follow GIOD or
And
in particular, you'll likely hear me now and then as a guest speaker. So,
and you're on our YouTube channel, our GI. Yeah, so excellent. And I know you'll be speaking with us again soon. We're going to do an OD summit in October. So
okay.
we've had a innovation. We had a disruption, transformation, innovation, and org systems design global learning week 2 weeks ago. So in October, we're going to have a summit, and we'd love you to present at that, Gil.
Sure, I'd love to. I'd have to know the dates, and I'm already aware that I am like booked the entire month of October. So hopefully
Oh
there's
my
like
goodness.
a
All right.
Saturday maybe in there or something. But
Oh,
uh,
amazing.
yeah, it's a busy time, especially with Leos. Now that depends on Leos getting their first full group of students. Uh,
Wonderful.
but but it begins this fall. The Leadership Institute of Seattle.
Wow. You're going to be
Yeah,
flying to Seattle.
yes, I'll be flying to Seattle at least 5 times a year. Once Leo's has really got a steady pipeline of students in it.
I
That's our
love,
big challenge now is to get students for our masters in
I love
leadership.
that. I'm so glad you
Yeah,
did that. All right.
yeah. It's very exciting. Okay, well, it was lovely chatting with you, Nancy.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a great rest of your week. And as I always say, go do OD.
We can save the world.
We can. We really can. Cooper Ryder calls it our Earth shot moment.
Yes. Yep, and Lewin believed that it was social science that would help establish sound democracy, decrease war, decrease prejudice, uh,
Absolutely.
the application of social science. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Wherever you go, practice OD, and we can change the world.
All right, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to the
Thank you.
listeners. And thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Take care. Hey, I appreciate you listening. This, again, is Gil Crosby. And I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. It's many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups. It's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, which has certificate programs, a two-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day. And I invite you to do the same. Together, we can create high productivity and morale in organizations. We can create stronger foundations for democracy. We can create a better world.